part of a generation of tools that's really built to make cybersecurity easier. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the MSP Cyber Roundtable. I'm up here in upstate New York where we've had our first snow this week. I see Nick's got the creepy Christmas tree on his desk. Anyway, we've got Nick and Dan here from Cork. We're going to be talking deeply about some of their experiences. They're doing some pretty interesting stuff later on. But first, Nick, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, great to be here. You brought me on again.
Yeah. Happy to have you back. And Dan, we just met in the green room like 15 minutes ago. And thanks for joining. And Nick's been talking about his partner in crime the last few times we've rubbed shoulders. So it was interesting to meet you. And I can't wait to hear the story we're gonna talk about a little later about the Cork warranties in action. But before we get too deep into Corkland, Nick, we've done your story before. Dan, I would love to hear where did Cork come from? Like, let's forget who Cork is right now. Like, who's Dan, and how did he arrive at this place in time to do this new innovation in loss coverage? So. I guess it's both like how did you arrive there, but how did you even get into cyber? How did you even end up in your career?
Absolutely. First of all, thanks for having us, Matthew. It's excited to chat with you. And as far as me, I'm just your average college dropout. And then
me too.
Yeah, it's life is amazing. Life is funny. Life is so full of challenge and pain, right? And then it's filled with immense joy and growth. And when you open your heart and your mind to to people and experiences, you find others that have gone through similar parts of a journey as well. So nice to meet a fellow dropout. Maybe there's been some course corrections since those choices, but
I side journey here. I'm on a school board now because like I think about that dropout experience and thinking like, how is our education system so like off kilter from where it needed to be for me that the best choice for me was to not access that system, right? And so I'm super passionate about education and what it can be and what it should be, and that's like what came of me, through that experience. So
well, and here you are in a place where you're trying to facilitate education. You're trying to create opportunities of how people can learn from one another and the experiences outside of school curriculum, right? And we as modern adults get to have the privilege to consume things in different ways that fit us versus being forced to consume, repeat, regurgitate, and expedite within a specific framework. So freedom of choice actually matters. By the way, Matthew, do you have kids? Is that how you kind of got into the school board piece?
Oh yeah. So when I've got a small gaggle of kids, and when they were super little, I put them in private school because I just I just didn't trust in the system, right? But I realized that they needed something bigger, right? And the reality is we need our schools to work in this country. And my children needed like a larger, experience. And so I decided, with no agenda other than you guys need civic contributions, like I'm gonna go do my part, which tends to be like pretty boring stuff, like learning the basics of public accounting, which as a business owner was like, wait, that's how governments like budget? Like, but that's like really what the job is just oversight to make sure that the system is moving forward, it's working the way it should, that they're implementing best practices, and not like getting mired in like the way things used to be, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. What I also hear there is that combination of, yes, best practices, but what surrounds that is the envelope of people. It's humans who teach. It's humans who create the processes. It's humans who actually bring the value to others. You can have the best processes and mechanisms in the world, and you can have the best school books or texts in the world. But unless you've got effective delivery, you can't have. That's part two in that cycle. Part three is what I'm sure you spend a lot of time doing, is listening and learning. What's that gap to great, and how can we improve it with the resources that we have? And that's what we do as business owners as well, where we're just constantly looking at how can we provide more value for our team and our clients, right? What are the resources we've got to apply into that framework? And then what are the 3 to 6 values that we use in order to manage our business and manage our behaviors so that we can actually improve the lives of people around us.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's definitely the process I've taken into my cyber career, right? In really understanding like what should be happening. How do you be, you must be a good to great fan, I'm guessing, but I don't know if you, but
I did learn how to read along the way.
So wait, let's rewind. So you're a college dropout, and then cyber, like.
Yeah, you bet. Well, what had happened is I was fortunate enough to go to a college that in high school I grew up. My mom was 16. I grew up really poor, pretty scrappy, trying to figure things out, working construction, and then I ended up going to college and went to Bates out in Maine, and they have this incredible international study program. So I had a great scholarship and was able to live in Japan for like 5 months. And then my sophomore year the whole year was Russia and India. And as I wrapped up that experience and came back to Colorado, I was like, how on earth could I possibly sit in a classroom at this point? I want to go learn other things. And so I came back, told them I wasn't coming back, and started a house painting company, because I knew construction and things like that. And that was really my first foray into having customers, understanding that if I do an okay job, they'll give me some money. If I do a great job, they'll give me more money and they'll give me referrals. And was really trained to start thinking about how to care for customers in that way. And eventually finished up a business degree and did some grad school types of things. But what all of that led me to was a number of small businesses. And so I was able to start managing, building, growing a few small businesses. I did some law firms. At one point I thought, man, I'd be a great attorney. And I realized that I'm not even close to ever being an attorney. And then ran an executive search firm and did like a lot of public consulting, and was thinking about a lot of nonprofit activities and how can I do good in this world. And after I went to an international business program, because I really wanted to pull back into some of that scaling and the idea that at our root, us as humans, we are all, of the same flesh and souls, and we care about safety, security, joy, love, comedy. There's a lot of things that make us all the same, regardless of where we come from. And yet we're unique in our own cultures. And what are the problems that we face in our cultures? And so that, as a business owner, business driver, business person, I just always wanted to come back to that value point. And so kind of fast forward to about 15 years ago, I was invited by the owner of this SaaS telecommunications company to help him build that business. And And we did that for about 5.5 years. We bootstrapped the entire thing, worked and sold closely through partners. And ultimately, we sold that business to, for a fair amount, and learned a lot along the way. And I got absolutely bitten, demolished by the insanity of startups and small business and what we can do. Because
you got the bug.
The bug. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I fast forward to the punchline of why I'm doing what I'm doing today, it's because we can be the supporters, the lovers, the champions of Main Street. 99% of all businesses by volume are SMB. And to me, this is where our brothers, sisters, parents, like family, like this is our community. This is how our country and many countries, around the world, this is the heartbeat of what we do. And that's what I know. It's what I love. And that's what I'm so passionate about. And what was interesting is after some of these startups, I actually got pulled over to EMC. I'd never done any enterprise stuff.
Oh, that's the total opposite direction, man.
It was. But the main reason was people. There were a couple of leaders and people that I believed in who shared the same value system of what's at the end of the road at the beginning, and said, hey, would you want to learn some new things and come play with us? And I thought, well, this would be an interesting adventure. And so shortly after that, Dell bought EMC. Part of that the 7 companies that were purchased was VMware. And since I have a strong software background, I ended up helping build and be responsible for that go-to-market. And we took that business to just under $1 billion. It was pretty wild. We were 37 million short. And it's always pissed me off that we never got there.
Well, that's just a matter of who does the accounting at that point, right?
Yeah, yes. Well, Michael Dell is very good at accounting, so we'll trust him on that one. And then AWS recruited me and said, hey, you did something kind of cool over here. Will you come build this business between Amazon and VMware? And so there was one joint customer. There was a basic technology. This was the VMware Cloud on AWS business. And this was 2018, 2019. And so Jassy was CEO of AWS. Mm-hmm. And I had 3 employees when I started. And by the time I left 4 years later, we had over 300 and a really substantial business. The pandemic, of course, had happened during that time. And so our ability to grow and scale was impressive. And I'll never forget my first week at AWS. I was in a fireside chat in person with Jassy and a bunch of the leadership team. And somebody had asked the question, hey, what are the next cool things that AWS is doing? And like, what's the next badass service? And Andy paused and he said, I would love to spend the next 45 minutes talking about all the cool things on the roadmap and the next services. He said, but what's most important to us, and the reason that we're privileged enough to show up to work every day, is that security is job 0. Security and the frameworks that we use to protect and love our clients is by far the most important thing. And you can't have anything else unless you get this part right. And I just remember, the impact of that statement for me going, here I'm thinking about all these shiny, cool things, and I got to come back to this foundation. And so as I built that business at AWS and left and got back to my roots, startup, I did some stuff at Total, cybersecurity, 100% channel focused, kind of on and on. Of course, current journey. To me, this focus on security, the simplification of it, reducing tax zones, and then helping our partners just be better than the bad guys. And then what do we do when things go wrong? Like, this is a fascinating thing, and it applies to my brother, who is a sheriff in the Fort Collins, Colorado Police Department, my sister who runs nursing facilities, right? And on and on and on. Every single person in my life can benefit from the work that we collectively do. And
I think it's a civilization level. You could think of it as a problem, right? Or a necessity or a quality, right? But Like really our digital, the value creation through our digitization, right, it is immense, but it's also risk, right? Um, and at this point, we have to get it right. We don't have a choice, right? We
Yeah.
have to get security right.
Matthew, I'd never thought about it as the civilization level purpose. That's impactful, man.
Whether it should or shouldn't be, it is what it is, right? That is where we're at right now. So
Look, and if you think about one of my favorite things to investigate that I'm trying to pull apart, especially given my enterprise experience, is I worked with lots of enterprise. I worked with lots of Wall Street. Wall Street, I sold, billions into Wall Street. Like I know that business well. They are so well protected. They are so well funded. They have designed and architected amazing things for themselves, and they know how to keep moving forward. What about Main Street? Like what we do every day is really focused on the real America. And that's where, when you talk about civilization level, the threat actors know that they're just going to keep moving around until they keep finding some weaker spots in the system. And they're going to be the water that goes into the sidewalk that freezes, cracks, expands. And so, when you look at the rise of attacks against S&B, it's terrifying. And that's where we've got work to do.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with everything you've said. So Dan, you're a man on a mission. It seems like we're on the same mission, and so that's awesome. I'm gonna be cheering you along from the sidelines for sure. Um, so we're gonna learn more about, like, okay, you're on that mission, and then that led to Cork. We're gonna get back to that in a few minutes, and you guys have an interesting story to tell. But before that, we're gonna do our lecture of the day. So I'm gonna jump right now into the risk ownership chain. So, one of our products is called Risk Chain. We didn't come up with that concept, although of course we productize Risk Chain VM as our vulnerability management solution. But the reality is that risks don't just like hide in your business, in a closet. Although sometimes we treat them that way, the reality is they're systemic. You have risks in your business that affect other parts of your business, right? As Dan was telling us a few minutes ago, right? It's like a threat actor that freezes in the sidewalk and can crack open that concrete. That's and break everything, really, and that's the way risks work. There is a system, though. There's an accepted philosophy for managing risk, and there's several ways that we manage risk, and this is not something that was invented for cyber. There's an actuarial science for management of risk. There's a bunch of concepts, but all of them directly translate over to the cyber technical world. So let's just talk about the idea of a chain of risk. So assets in your business, which are your people. They are your systems. They are physical hardware sometimes, right? Virtual things. They mirror the shape of your business, right? And so do the risks, the cyber risks that are presented by them. And just to be clear, all cyber risk is business risk, right? And in addition to that, that also means that all cyber risk is the responsibility of business management. That is, the managers in the business, the CEO, the board, whoever that is, they're ultimately accountable. It's actually not legally possible to outsource that, right? It's under U.S. law, in English Commonwealth law. You have a responsibility, right, to manage your risk, and cyber risk is no different. But there's a chain, there's a hierarchy, and it's the job of asset owners to manage that risk. I mean, and in cyber technical, it's either accept the risk and document why it's reasonable, because that's the standard that you need to win, is it's a reasonable risk, even if you guess wrong, like it was a reasonable guess, or your resource fixes. If you don't do one of those two things, do a reasonable risk accept or fix it, guess what? That's negligence. So that chain of accountability It starts down at the cyber technical, goes up through the assets, up through the business. It ends at the board and the CEO. And I just want to walk through a couple terminology concepts that are particularly useful for those in the cyber technical world that have to speak and translate this to the business. So you have your organizational security scope, and usually the security scope is the whole organization. And you've got your vulnerabilities, which exist in usually individual assets. They're attached to assets, right? Your assets have ways that attackers can leverage them or take advantage of them. Each vulnerability is attached to some type of asset. Typically, we're talking about software vulnerabilities, and we're talking about physical devices or virtual devices, right? Like computers, phones, stuff like that, right? But an asset is, and a vulnerability can come in other forms. In addition to that, you've got these different types of assets. When you group them up, um, they back business processes. So you have a computer with hundreds of pieces of software on it. That computer may be on a network with a bunch of other computers that look just like it as part of a larger system as that then back a business process, right? So you could see that these groups of assets back business processes. And I'm leaving the cyber technical aside. The asset groups are inside your business processes, which then, of course, are inside organizational units, right? So organizational units being the way you group people in organizations. Think of like an org chart, right? And business processes are the things the business needs to do to survive, to do what it's supposed to be doing. So your vulnerabilities are in there. They're attached to your assets. The assets are attached to the business processes. The business processes are attached to organizational units. And when you talk to your customers about cyber technical risk, if you're not acknowledging that this is the nature of the vulnerabilities and you're not communicating that to your customers, you're doing them a disservice. That means they don't understand the vulnerabilities that you're perhaps presenting to them as something that needs resourcing. So there's many different roles we might associate in this system, but down at the asset level, and this is just, cyber technical theory, there are owners of assets. That is, there's the people that are responsible for owning that asset. Like I use a laptop. I own this laptop, even if theoretically it's company property, right? I'm the asset owner of that laptop, right? And if I report to someone's department, right? That department might be the finance department, and they may have like a payroll business process in there. And inside the payroll unit, they need my laptop, right? So you've got that chain of the person who owns the organizational unit, the person who owns the business process, the person who owns the asset, right? And then we have custodians. And that's if you're a cyber geek out there, you're a technology geek, you're an MSP, right? That's your job. You're the custodian. Your job is to care for that asset, to take care of it, to make sure it's patched, right? To make sure it's backed up, to make sure it's under some kind of support. Maybe make sure it's got a warranty, a cyber warranty, right? That's your job as custodian. So I think all of those roles are important, and they're in addition to the roles we typically think about in cybersecurity, like a CISO or an ISO or a security engineer. But those people don't work on their own in cyber, right? You've got the CEO, you've got the middle management, right? The people that are responsible for business processes, and the people who are managing those everyday assets. They're all part of that risk ownership chain. And when you communicate about cyber needs to your customers, all of those people should be part of the process. So that's the risk chain. I'm curious, as you guys interact with, I guess maybe a wider variety. Dan, you've been through some adventures over the years. Do you find that the organizations that you've related to in recent years are aware of this bridge between the cyber technical need and, hey, this stuff's actually part of the business? Because I think some people haven't yet sort of crossed that conceptual bridge.
Yeah, good question. And Nick, I look forward to some of your direct comments on that one too. In my experience, all of these things are a journey, right? Like MSPs not being called MSPs 20, 30 years ago. Like how is that, IT services been on a journey? how are things like business continuity becoming more relevant as a concept, and how we're helping our end user clients be successful day in, day out, right? The intersection of insurance, warranty, federal, restrictions and pressures that are put upon us, and the way that businesses react to those things. So honestly, we talk to hundreds of partners a month, and we ask lots of questions about what clients are going through and where they are in their journey in thinking about cybersecurity insurance. That is kind of that tip of that spear of something that's pretty obvious. And if I put a general number out there, 20 to 40% of the clients have cybersecurity insurance today. And that number will significantly increase in 2025 and in the subsequent years. And so that insurance thing is kind of Wild West, and people are moving through it, and partners are trying to figure out how to support that thing, right? And so tying that to what is technology telling us, that how naughty or nice are we? Sorry, it's almost Christmas time, so I've got to start using some of those references, right? The naughty and nice side of what's happening inside the business, so that there's continuity of what will be paid out in the future, to what are the behaviors of the DNA of a business, to what is Marion County doing with her endpoint protection or MFA, and like the changes that happen. So there's so many little gotchas along the way. And long-winded answer. I think it's evolving, and there's a lot of risk and a lot of gotchas. And so anything that it is our duty as a technology company just to keep simplifying and to provide the financial mechanisms, so that if and when people get hit, that there's comfort. You're not going to go out of business. You're not going to have downtime. You're not going to lose customers.
The simplification thing is really important, particularly when you think about an insurance claim, right? So an insurance claim is for the catastrophic, really, typically. And particularly cyber claims are sometimes really complicated. So this idea of having a simpler warranty method of claiming a loss is really interesting, right? It's not complicated, right? That concept, which we're gonna polyfill in a few minutes here, like what is that thing that sits between like major loss coverage and I've configured a firewall, right?
Yeah. To simplify, insurance and warranty are two sides of the same coin. Insurance is for all of those known, planned pains that can exist. Warranty is to cover all of those other unknowns and to influence the outcome and on the insurance side. Cork offers the warranty. We sell a 500K warranty. And then most importantly, we have an insights platform that is agentless, API driven, integrates with your stack, because we love our partners. We believe in our partners' abilities to put together the right IT for their clients. And so it integrates with that quickly, and it's a light switch. And so then we have a source of truth for our partners and for the clients that then tells what's going on with warranty and insurance. Because we're talking about a place where there's just a lot of unknowns, and we're trying to eliminate the unknowns and provide some guarantees.
So I want to get to the story of the day, which is you guys, you came to save the day, right? And we had an actual incident, right? We're not going to use the B word.
Yep.
We had an actual incident, and it's a great case study. And we're going to get deeper into Cork's offering, I think, at the tail end of the show. But what do people need to know to understand this story? Nick, do you want this slide on the screen?
Yeah. If you want to share my screen here, and let me share this off real quick. So when we spoke last in May, we talked about cyber insurance and how it's important, but if not done right, it could lead to denials occurring. So, Travelers Insurance, as an example, denied a cyber insurance claim because MFA was misrepresented, right? They said MFA was turned on when they filled out that questionnaire, but because they didn't have the proper monitoring, the proper risk watching, the claim ultimately ended up getting denied. And this is just one of many, many claims that end up getting denied by cyber insurance if it's not used properly. If you were to just Google cyber insurance denial rate, it's pretty staggering. I'm seeing 44%, I'm seeing 30%, I'm seeing 28%. Like the numbers are pretty high up there. And if you're an insurance broker watching this, I'm sure that there's a lot of edge cases where your rates might be lower, but in general, based on the research that we're seeing online, as well as through our partners with DataStream, cyber insurance can have a high denial rate if it's not used properly. And of course, the only ones that are making the news is when cyber insurance get denied, right? We denied you, so it's going to leak to the media somehow. So what Cork is going to be discussing today is the opposite of it. Is not only were we not denying a claim, we were paying it out. And here's the success story around paying it out and working alongside the cyber insurance carrier with our MSP. And it all ties back to what Dan just said earlier, is that we're removing the need of having to fill out a security questionnaire and fill out that text box. It's all going to be done with our vendor agnostic monitoring solution that ties into the client's RMM platform, EDR platform, backup solution, MFA solution. That way, we know all the security measures are in place and the client is protected properly. And as a result of that, we can now pay out instantly with our cyber warranty and supplement the existing cyber insurance policy. So with that, I think that sets the stage for Dan to take over and really talk more about, a win for the good guys. How did Cork Cyber Warranty work alongside our managed service provider and ultimately protect their client? That way their client didn't have any out-of-pocket expenses during that incident.
Can we start with the really bad day? When did it become a bad day?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, a few months ago, for Amanda Grove, she's the CEO of a law firm. And she got an email from what she thought was a friendly, and she clicked the link and put her information into the SharePoint so that she could honor the request that was coming her way. Well, that instantly exposed over 10,000 records into the SharePoint. And as soon as she had entered those creds, Cork and Duo both notified our partner. And so our partner, Birmingham Consulting, owned by Scott Birmingham, he's got a great team. They were all on it. And 25 minutes later, they had quarantined that environment. Everything was locked down, reset, and it was protected to ensure that nothing had gone out of that particular SharePoint. And thank goodness it didn't take that long, right? Cork showed up, Duo showed up, the partner showed up, and they were able to do the thing. The challenge is it also kicks off a whole nother series of activities. The law firm has cyber insurance. The law firm and Birmingham have Cork. And so what we do, that begins the incident response. Go ahead.
Well, where was the exact moment that someone said, "Oh, this is an incident," right? That when did they declare? Because when you're tipping off the client, right? It's this nebulous thing, right? Someone has to say, "Oh, this is actually an incident," right?
Yeah, I think that was all within that first 15 minutes where
that's amazing. Yeah.
So Amanda realized this doesn't smell right, and shortly thereafter had called her managed service provider. They were already on it. They were already looking at the signals that had automatically alerted and saying, "Hey, thank you." And I think they were on the phone together for another 15, 20 minutes while the team was swarming, and they were able to complete step one of the mitigation piece on the incident. But that's just like, hey, I think we got the fire out. Did we actually get the fire out? And then where did the fire come from, right? And what are we going to do about the fire? And then the fire department's got to do the investigation. And that's where Cork and the insurance company really kind of take over, or there's work to do with Birmingham. What it resulted in, well, Does that answer your first question?
No, it does. And I got, of course, I got follow-up questions, but so at that point, you guys are in play, the insurer's in play, and the insurer's running the incident. You're running the incident. The service provider's running the incident. Who's in charge at that point?
The managed service provider, Birmingham.
Okay.
Yep. So they're running everything. What we do in that case is we instantly provide an electronic credit card, 10K, boom, there's money to spend. We're in contact with the team and we're providing any other insights out of our platform that we can do to be of service. Obviously, we're on call with our partner, and the partner is the one who's doing all of the work. Like let's be honest here, the hardest job out of anybody is to be an MSP and to service clients. And in this case, they jumped in. So whole team goes after it. And really that first 24-hour period, they're doing a lot of IR type of work and investigation. They hired another individual or group of individuals to come in and support. And there's a lot of consulting hours that went into that first day, that first week. And
internal in Birmingham.
Correct.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, the insurance company starts asking for things. And then there's more hours and there's more deliverables. And this happened, this was what, 4 or 5 months ago now. Since then, Cork has paid 100% of everything, meaning we have paid all of Birmingham's consulting hours. Even when they're ordering pizza because they got to feed the team, that's us. I couldn't wait to say yes to that and the rest of these expenses, because that was them figuring out how to take care of their client. The net result was $0 for the law firm. And so Mrs. Groves, she is, told Birmingham, you are my partner for life. And she's grateful to the Birmingham team and for Cork for facilitating a $0 event for her, and for, most importantly, protecting all of the information for her clients. Like, that's what really matters. And I will say, in this case, like, we're still trying to support the insurance company and the insurance claim. There's still more hours coming in because that thing isn't done yet. And what I love insurance companies in particular, because they're trying to get better at taking care of their clients and to leverage, the truth of the situation, so that they can pay out on the things that they've committed to pay out on. And Cork provides the leverage to the MSP and to the client in order to make that real. And because that is the truth of who was covered, what was happening on the endpoint, what was the action that was taken, and then what do we agree to pay on. And in general, I just want to support partners. So if I can
And what I really liked about this scenario is that not only is Cork vendor agnostic before the attack, right? We don't care which tools that the client is using, as long as they're using a tool, right? It could be Sentinel-1 EDR, it could be Webroot, it could be Windows Defender, whatever. We're also vendor agnostic after the attack. You would have to check with a cyber insurance carrier, but depending on your cyber insurance policy, you might be limited to only using certain services for remediation, right? For incident response. With Cork, we don't really, it's up to the client and who they pick for incident response. In this case, it was the MSP performing the majority of that incident response. So Cork was ultimately writing the check to the MSP itself. So happy partner, happy customer in the long run.
Yeah, and to clarify there, what you just touched on, Nick, is like the other gotcha of the insurance industry, right? It's not just the claims denial, right? It's, well, what is this incident handling process like, right? What are the implications? What are the requirements of that claim, right? And the fact that some of these costs can be shifted onto a warranty, it actually, I would imagine, makes it easier to narrow the claim and makes it easier to get it approved, makes it easier for the underwriter to approve it, right? Makes it more aligned with the incident response or the loss mitigation that the underwriter has lined up, right? Or the carrier has lined up. Rather.
I love that there's a piece of altruism there, because if you think about the role of insurance brokers, many of them are the trusted advisors our collective clients, right? And they have those relationships. And so anything we can do to support their world, their challenging job, the pressures that they face in supporting a variety of cyber insurance companies, it makes a better experience for all of us, partners and clients alike. And, when you have Cork, nobody will ever pay a cyber insurance deductible ever again. Cork pays the deductible, right?
Oh, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And like we have very large payouts on these types of things. And what it does, importantly, is it allows clients to change the cost of their cyber insurance. And so then the annual premium comes down dramatically because you're able to have a high deductible, because Cork pays 100% of that.
Mm-hmm.
So Dan, I have a question for you. When we worked alongside the cyber insurance carrier for Amanda Grove's law firm, and they first heard about Cork and the cyber warranty, were they upset? Were they like, what's this cyber warranty thing? They're encroaching on our turf? Or were they happy? What was the feedback working alongside them?
Honestly, there were quite a few apologies coming out of that organization, primarily around the speed at which they were able to respond to the partner and the client. And that's where they're like, oh, it's really cool that you've got this partner Cork to assist in this process. It's really cool that a lot of the costs are being handled in association with it. And honestly, without Cork, the thing, like both the client and Birmingham would be in pain, because we're talking, more than $20,000, right? Like there's many thousands of dollars here, and somebody has to pay for that. Somebody's going to write that check, and we've designed our business model to be able to do that. And so like that is a very, and it takes the pressure off the insurance company in a way to, try to respond to things and to pay out in a particular.
So just to clarify, so your warranty payout process, right? It's not subject to, because it's not regulated the same. It's not the same type of thing as the insurance products. It doesn't go through the same governance process. It's frankly, insurance is slow as heck, right?
Yep.
And so when you need those dollars, like they can come quickly. In addition to that, that loss coverage, that's covering things that fall into exemptions sometimes, right? Or fall in between coverages.
Yeah. So go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, so with Cork, a lot of our MSPs kind of see us as supplemental gap coverage, filling in the gaps of what's often left behind from cyber insurance. Typically with cyber insurance, they're not going to cover things like SMS attacks or email gift card scams, or even wire transfer fraud payments. Those are typically not covered by a cyber insurance policy. Whereas with Cork, they are covered. And as you can see here, they're covered pretty fast. If it's something small like an email phishing attack, gift card scam, we're reimbursing that to the client within 2 days. If it's something like a wire transfer attack or a ransomware attack, first what we do is we issue a credit card to the client within the same day of an attack. And that credit card is with thousands of dollars on it. That way they could recover same time, same day during the attack occurs. Then we're going to examine the attack, make sure it's a real attack. It's not Matt sending money to Nick and trying to work the system. But assuming it is a real attack, we're providing that settlement within 30 days. And then last but not least, if it's a big attack where we're getting involved with the cyber insurance carrier, yes, we're giving you the instant fund access. Yes, we're paying off the cyber insurance deductible. And it's really Cork getting involved with the cyber insurance carrier, figuring out who's paying what is covered to ultimately lower the risk of what the client has to pay out of pocket. Now, in this scenario with Amanda Grove's law firm, luckily there was no out-of-pocket expenses whatsoever for her. So here's my follow-up question for Dan, though. All right, so the client had an attack and we had to do a payout, right? How much are we increasing our bill next year? Are we doubling it, tripling it? What's the increase next month?
Maybe it's the college dropout side of me. I don't know. But I always want to reduce the cost and provide more value to our clients. To me, that's how I get partners for life. And so the short answer is, thanks for the funny question, Nick. But we're in the business of supporting our partners. When I ask our partner advisory council or any partner that exists, like, why do you give us money every month? Why do you continue to do business with Cork? They tell me, you give us confidence to be able to work with our clients in a different way. We get to differentiate ourselves, and we get to show up with the insights from your dashboard, the insights from your platform, which means we actually get to go take actions and help them reduce the threat attack areas. And we know that you'll be there when an incident occurs. And I really appreciate that. And that we're only in business because we get to help do that every single day, and because we continue to show up every day. The way I've kind of been thinking about it is, you know, dominoes, like, have you ever seen when they build like cool long mazes of dominoes? I don't know, they go up and down and around.
Yeah.
You only have to touch the first domino, right? And then it will just continue falling. And at some point, somebody, if you want it to stop, you have to actually go put your hand there between the dominoes and it will stop. And then you've got all the rest of them that are still standing and alive. And that's how partners in Cork work together. We're that hand that can go in and go, we know at some point those dominoes can tip. That's the world we're living in. How quickly in that domino chain can we get our hand in there to stop the fall? And then that means business continuity is not BS talk. It means that our clients are successful in business, not having downtime. What is the cost of downtime? Like, I'm sure almost every single MSP is asking that question of their clients, and minimizing that and knowing that there's financial protection on top allows us all to operate differently.
Yep. And because we're operating efficiently, even in this example where we had to pay out, it's not going to result in a price increase. We're not tripling the cost or jacking up the cost. We're able to plan accordingly for that. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, we have not increased our pricing at all, with these claims. It's pretty much stayed the status quo.
No, and in fact, as we've now, essentially we're creating a market. We're the only company in the world that's doing it this way. And as we work with more and more insurance companies to back Cork, now we're doing things with companies that are backed by Lloyd's of London and others, right? What it allows us to do is be able to lower our operating costs and then pass those things through to our partners. And so, like, to overly simplify, you can get $500,000 worth of financial protection for $350 a month. Like, it is a really simple math equation. And in that model, we'll pay up to $250,000 of business interruption, right? Incident response is another $250,000 of that. Like, these are massive amounts of money that we have built into our business model, supported by mega insurance and reinsurers in order to be able to deliver results.
Yep.
So you guys, I'm glad we went through that story. But I know that before we get into, like, well, how do organizations get involved? Like, where do they start with Cork? I know that you mentioned earlier that you've been working tighter with insurance companies, and that, like, really like puzzle pieces, right? To really create that continuity there. And you guys have at least one new partnership. Should we talk a little bit about DataStream?
Yeah, we can talk about our friends over at DataStream. So, as an MSP, you can't make any money on cyber insurance. Whether your clients get cyber insurance through DataStream or somewhere else, there's really no money to be made because it's a licensed industry. Only the licensed insurance broker can be making money. So what we did, though, with this partnership with DataStream is, with Cork and our monitoring dashboard, we're monitoring all the security tools in a client's environment, the RMM tool, the EDR tool, the backup tool, the MFA tool, etc. As a result of seeing this monitored information, we could share that data with our friends over at DataStream, who will then in turn be able to give a client an instant cyber insurance quote without the hassle of filling out a security questionnaire. So think about all the hours the client spends filling out those insurance questionnaires, or you as the MSP helping your client fill out that questionnaire. All of those hours go away. You can now get them an instant cyber insurance quote straight through the Cork dashboard. And best of all, because of our partnership with DataStream and the fact that Cork's cyber warranty will pay off the DataStream deductible, the insurance rates and quotes from DataStream are roughly 30 to 40% lower. So not only can your clients save a couple $1,000s annually on their cyber insurance policy, they're going to get that policy faster without having to spend hours filling out a questionnaire. And the MSP can make some money along the way by reselling them the Cork warranty. Again, they don't make money on the cyber insurance aspect of it, but they absolutely make money when they resell Cork's cyber warranty to their end client.
So I'm excited when I see I know Dan, you were being kind earlier, saying that all the insurers are great innovators, but some of them are great innovators, and it's really great seeing the players out there that are learning to consume data, right? And so that, you guys working with DataStream, like, and the fact that you can get someone a more competitive, easy to access, like, honestly, those long forms are ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's great.
As you were walking through the framework in the mini lecture you did, right? It's kind of like how many of those blocks can break down? Where is the block going to break down from one to the next? And part of that is just the nature of and the evolution of the insurance business. Old business based upon annual premiums. There's not a single person in our world that thinks in an annual mindset. We're thinking about, especially when we look at across all of our clients and hundreds of thousands of endpoints that we at Cork are helping manage. Like, things change daily.
Yeah.
New employees start, employees quit, technologies change, things have to be updated. And in that flow, gaps are created, little risk is created, unintentional human error occurs. And that's where our Insights platform is so meaningful. That is what we do every day with our partners, is just show them what's happening in that environment. And so, and that's how we can afford to pay out, because we can go help and ensure that people are reducing the risk. And in general, if you look at before and after Cork, it's a 73% decrease in the attack zone after they have implemented Cork, because they're able to create efficiency out of their own stack and maximize the tools that they've already done. And so the reason I bring this up is because the insurance world doesn't operate at the speed at which we and our partners operate. And so then there's this gap of, we're going to do a PDF that's 80 pages once a year. That's not the real world. And so, of course, there's conflict in that. And I'm empathetic to that conflict. And that's what we're trying to solve for. And that's where there's a business need for us as well.
All right. So I'm sure some of our partners think this is a great fit. Where do they get started? What's the entry point here for Cork, and where should they go find you guys?
Yeah, sure thing. So if you want to share that slide real quick, any MSP watching this, they could just scan that QR code on their phone. That will bring us to our website, corkinc.com. And again, we're more than happy to have a presentation with you, go over our monitoring platform, our pricing. We have coverage for both MSPs to use us internally, as well as coverage for if they wanted to resell our cyber warranty to their end user customers. And all MSPs that partner with us will also gain access to the DataStream partnership. So they can start instantly generating those insurance quotes for their clients as well.
Well, I can't wait to see more of our partners get on the Cork train. I know some of them are super excited. And it's interesting. It's interesting, some of our partners that get, you guys didn't talk about it a lot, they get just as excited about the visibility of your integration dashboard, right? The agent compliance stuff, or more excited than they do about the loss warranties, which are like clearly the center and the most important thing. But I just want to say your software is great too.
No. What we find is that people are very attracted to the warranty, and they come to us because they want to understand that piece, but they stay because of the platform, right? Like, it becomes this compliance tool or an information tool, and they use it every day in their business in order to help understand, hey, let's have our techs actually go work on these 2 or 3 different clients. And it creates conversations with clients. So you can do your quarterly business review and go, hey, this is what we did by leveraging, the Cork, you don't have to say Cork, but like by leveraging the tools, like this is how much more secure we have made you. These are the number of incidents that we have stopped and identified on your behalf that you never knew about. And so here's your Q1 report, and here's some things that we want to do for Q2. And it actually, you're adding value. At the end of the day, if we're not adding more value than we did the previous quarter, then we don't deserve anybody's business.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. Before we get out of here, I do want to talk about next week's because we happen to have Parander from Sotero, and he's bringing with him Ken Foster, who's going to be talking to us about some of the new encryption mandates in PCI DSS. And it's super exciting because Ken used to be in one of the working groups that was developing what this next version of PCI DSS is going to look like. It's one of our oldest, most important security standards, and it is still evolving, keeping our payment industry safe. So I know that, believe it or not, the banks are still fighting payment fraud, and I've certainly been hearing a lot about the tap to pay type stuff being a little troubling the last few months here. So I can't wait for that next week. That'll be again at 2:30 Eastern time. Guys, before we dial out of here, quick takeaways here, like one-liners. You want to leave anyone anything?
It's not about if your client are going to have an attack. It's about when they're going to have an attack. That way, that's why you want to have a multi-layered approach to cybersecurity with a bunch of different tools. You want to combine RMM with backup, with MFA, with email security. And if all else fails, that's where warranties and insurance can kick in to help your clients get recovered when they have an attack, because it's not if, it's when.
I'll take it.
I'm going to go, what came to mind when you asked me that was the word community. And we live in personal and professional communities, and that gives us value as humans and as business people. And what we're trying to do is support the community that we love. Austin McCord is one of our founders, right? He's the founder of Datto. Like, he is somebody that is all about MSP community day in, day out. Nick and I hear about it all the time too. And I just love that emphasis on community, because at the end of the day, we're humans first. And so anything we can do to improve the communities that we exist in makes it a more meaningful journey along the way. So thank you for inviting us to your community, Matthew.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you again soon.
Peace.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.